What is up, everybody? Welcome to week 9 of the Tailgate. As you guys can see here, you've got like two of the handsomest dudes at Camps to Canton, the smartest betting guy right over there in the bottom corner, and then there's some Michigan fan who decided to join us today. But we are excited to be here for week 9. No Austin, no Felix, just the greatest minds at Campus to Canton. Gentlemen, how you doing today? How you guys feeling on this beautiful Saturday before we jump in and start talking about some Week 9 college football?
Feeling pretty good. In Felix's defense, if he's not here, it's because he's doing anything else that he would rather be doing. So,
yeah, that's true. He made that very apparent to us.
He did.
That is fair point. Fair point.
Brandon, how you feeling down there? You sweating today?
I'm nervous.
You should be. You should be.
I am not. Just embrace it, and it makes it a lot easier for you.
We're not playing Illinois today, so I feel okay about that.
Good. You should be worried about Illinois. They're a good team.
Yeah, they are a good team. 9 overtimes, and they get the win. They're a great team. Moxley, how you doing on this Saturday? Oh man, already kicking it off with the mutes. Man, if only Felix was here. I thought this maybe was like a Felix thing.
I know. I've been bad about it the last couple of weeks. No, I'm doing okay. It's a beautiful Saturday morning from North Carolina, so I can't complain.
How about your Atlanta Braves there, my friend? Jump off topic a little bit and go baseball. Got the pearls out. I like it. I love it. I'm rooting for him, man. I hate Houston, so I'm rooting for him. I really hope that they end up pulling out the win. Not really a big fan of the Braves since they ruined my Indians' chance to get a World Series a long time ago. But you know what? I'll root for him this time. All right, so let's jump on to some college football. That's what everybody's here for, right? Grayson McCall, he continues to have a very good season for Coastal Carolina. They played Thursday night. He goes for 294 and 2 touchdowns, 1 interception through the air. Doesn't really do much on the ground, though. At least I don't think. Am I missing that? 59 yards and a touchdown. I apologize. 59 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Colin, I'm going to come to you first. Do you think, with as bad as this class has been that we've talked about for 2022, is there any chance that he comes out this year?
Is there a chance? Yeah, there is. But I don't know if NFL teams are going to like the offense he's coming from. I don't think at this point in time, I don't know if I see him being a day 2 quarterback. I think it would be close. He's kind of on the fringe there, but if you're on the fringe, go back, come out next year, when you're a senior. At that point, they'll have an extra year of tape on. Plus, Coastal Carolina has been a good enough team that they have been right there the past couple years. I mean, they have that loss this year to App State, but App State's a pretty solid team. I mean, they're annually like a 1-loss team at this point under Chadwell. So go back, try and get a title there in the I just blanked on the Sun Belt. No, what conference are they in? I just blanked on it completely. But try and get a conference title, maybe a playoff shot, and then come out after you get an extra year of tape in there.
Moxley, of course, Moxley starts coughing. Moxley, what are your thoughts?
I've said all along that I don't think he, and I basically echo what Colin said, right? I don't think he comes from an offense that NFL teams are super interested in investing in him. I think he's just a good college quarterback. He's like a project at the next level if you really want to invest, but that's a guy you take on day 3. I don't think he's a day 2 pick. He's definitely not around.
So just to mention, yes, Colin, you are right. They are in the Sun Belt. There's a lot of stats people who believe in Grayson McCall because just how good his stats, I guess, match up with what NFL quarterbacks do when they get to the NFL. So I'm curious that you said that. I thought you might be on the other side of that and say, I mean, I guess if he goes round 3, that's still a day. Did you say day 3 or round 3?
I think he's going to go day 3 if he comes out, okay. But I guess I could see him going round 3. I mean, he has the stats. He does really well EPA per play, which the whole Coastal team is extremely efficient every year. His QBR is always good, but I just don't like it. It really is not an offense conducive to translating to the next level, right? At least not right now.
I got you. Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. I mean, I the only thing I say with, I mean, he could go round 3. Kellen Mond went round 2, so I mean, you can really kind of throw any like bad or good quarterback out the window. Brandon, do you have any thoughts on McCall?
Well, I was going to say about Davis Mills. I know he was a higher regarded recruit, but he didn't really do much in Stanford because of injuries, and he still went fairly, high. And I think that gives the opportunity, at least to McCall. I don't necessarily think he's going to leave, but I mean, there's always an opportunity.
Fair point.
Thanks,
yeah,
Chad.
I
Thanks,
would,
Chad. I appreciate that.
I would bet at best he waits one more year. I mean, he's still technically considered a sophomore, even though he's been in college for 3 years. So, 2023, if we're being honest, is not much of a better class. I mean, what do you have? Bryce Young in a tier by himself, then probably CJ Stroud in the tier below, also by himself, and then it's everybody else. So 2023 might be the year to come out because we do know that these NFL teams overvalue quarterbacks. Speaking of quarterbacks, there is a guy that Brandon, I believe, mentioned the other day is starting to sour on a little bit, that our favorite, the hostess with the mostest, Felix Sharp, loves himself some Carson Strong. And Nevada went out there and had a good day yesterday. And they've got 3 players on their team that many consider, or many are talking about them making the NFL. That is tight end Cole Turner, wide receiver Romeo Doubs, and then you've got quarterback Carson Strong. Carson Strong last night against UNLV, so take that with, a grain of salt because UNLV, one of the worst teams in college football. 417 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, was 37 of 49. Romeo Doubs, 58 yards and a touchdown. Cole Turner, 63 yards on 7 catches and 2 touchdowns. Brandon, I'm going to come to you first because I saw your comment the other day about Carson Strong. You can talk about just Strong or all 3 of these guys. What are your thoughts on all 3 of these guys going into the NFL this year, where you think they could be drafted? Could all 3 be drafted in the first 5 rounds of the NFL?
Yes, I think all 3 could. I think Cole Turner, just his size and his hands, he had another amazing catch last night with a one-handed touchdown catch. I still really like Carson Strong, but I will say, watching the whole Fresno State game last week and the game last night, I see what Austin's saying. Whenever there's anything around Carson Strong, I mean, he can sidestep a little bit, but I did see him make, I think, a 0-yard gain last night. So that's in the positive sense for him. But he has a great arm. I think he's a smart quarterback. But, I mean, it's right. They're moving towards more of the mobile quarterbacks. I can't even think of anyone that, as a starter right now, that has that kind of mobility. He has a great arm, and I kind of worry about that air raid, and if he goes into a different offense, how he'll necessarily do. But, yeah, when he gets pressured, he just – throws it up, and he had a really bad interception last night where Cole Turner was surrounded by 4 guys and he overthrew him by 10 yards. So I think that maybe with the competition level and just the how good Doubs and Turner are, it kind of hides maybe some of his flaws. So that's what I definitely have soured a little bit. I still think Strong could go first round, but I hate to say that Austin is, kind of right, but when there's anybody around him, he totally like freaks out, and his decision making is really, really poor at times.
First of all, we can never say those words there that you said. I'm not even going to say them. I think if this was 5 years ago, definitely 10 years ago, he's a first round quarterback. He's got that skill set. But the way that the NFL is moving nowadays, you have to be able to create something outside of structure. And I don't think that Carson Strong can do that. So I don't see him going round 1. Maybe early round 2. He could go in that Kyle Trask range. I think that would be fine.
Y'all are wrong. Y'all are just wrong on this one. He's going to be a first round pick. He just is. Like, just the same thing. I think Malik Wilson's gonna be a first round pick. Like, throughout the entirety of the season, we've seen Carson Strong mocked in the first. NFL guys are talking about him in the first. Like, whether or not he deserves to go in the first, probably a different question. But he's gonna go in the first round. I'm pretty sure. This is a bad class.
So how many quarterbacks do you think go in the first then?
4.
Corral and Howell, Willis.
Yeah.
Strong.
You don't think Pickett's up there with the hype that he's been getting?
I don't think Kenny Pickett's going in the first. Like I really don't. I would be surprised if he did. I haven't really seen him mocked in the first all that much either. I saw Kuiper come out that it's Malik Willis and everybody else, and then he got Pickett up there too. And I'm just like, what is Pickett? Pickett's like 80 years old and wears 2 gloves.
He's seasoned. Yeah, he's a veteran.
Like,
that's why.
He's going to be like 45 when he enters the NFL. I mean,
yeah.
I just don't understand the Kenny Pickett thing. I really, really don't. Like, he looks good. And he's definitely taken a step because, like, he was a guy that everybody liked for a while. I don't know if he's a first-round pick. Like, that's a little scary.
I do wonder. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to make a joke that if stats guys tell me when you're 40 years old and that's when you finally have your breakout season, that's not good because you're playing against a bunch of 18-year-olds. So it makes sense why Kenny Pickett's playing well. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was going to say, I think some people that maybe don't know much about Kenny Pickett don't know about his previous years where he has been mediocre at best. So I don't think you can just throw out those years because this might be the anomaly, that he just, hit fire this year and then his regular, every year is around, that 12 touchdown, 8 pick season, which definitely is not a first round talent.
Yeah. Yeah. So John Lobb is mentioning in the comments something about Strong, and that's what I agree with and why I agree with Moxley. You only need one team to like him for him to go in the first round, just like the Patriots with Mac Jones. And I do agree with what you were saying, Colin, on some of the stuff, and that does worry me. I mean, but Mac Jones is not much more mobile than Carson Strong. Tom Brady never in his career has been much more mobile than Carson Strong. Now, he's more mobile. They both are, but it's not by much. I think if a team is going to fall in love with that arm, and what I've talked about with him, and granted, I know he's playing in the Mountain West, so some of that is kind of hard to gauge, but what he does up here, you can see him changing plays at the line, calling out blitzes. Coaches are going to love that. And if he can do that at the NFL level, I do think he can be successful because that matters, right? Like, and I'm not comparing him to a Tom Brady, to a Mac Jones, who, Colin, we've had an argument about just recently about how good he's been the best rookie quarterback, right? And I think some of that is because he knows some of that stuff here. He's not the most gifted, but it's here. And that's what's worked for the Tom Brady's. And I'm just using Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, just because they're the best at it. I'm not saying Carson Strong's anywhere near that level, but this is what really matters for coaches. And so if he really can prove that when he sits down in those interviews and they get him up on the whiteboard and he does good in the interviews, he's able to call out plays and do this and that, I do think coaches are going to love him, and someone's going to fall in love with him and take him in the first round because of what Moxley said as well. Like, it's a bad class. Like, the only 2 guys I think are worth first-round picks, I don't even know if he'd get it if he decided to come out this year in Rattler, is Corral and Howell, in my opinion. I still think Howell is very good. I know he's not having a wonderful season. That has not been, but he's done it for 2 years. And he's going to end up putting up the numbers again this year. I mean, he was amazing as a freshman, had a good year last year. He's going to do it again this year. Malik Willis, I think, is going to get drafted on his tools alone. Not sure that he's worth a first-round pick or he's going to be anything in the NFL. And I think realistically, that's the same thing for Strong, because not many quarterbacks in this class have the arm that he has. So I do think he ends up going in the first round. We talked a little bit about this. I think it was in our text message thread, but Felix was really hoping, in all honesty, and it makes sense, right? Because once I finish the sentence, he wants the Lions to take him. He thinks with that offensive line, which I don't disagree with, because they do have one of the better offensive lines, they would be able to pass protect for him good enough.
As a top 2 pick?
No, with their second pick. And that's what we were talking about. Like, they take them because I think they've got the Rams pick. So if, like, say the Rams make it to the Super Bowl or one of the that's like 27-32. If they take them there, that's really not that bad. I mean, you still got them for 5 years. You get someone up in the top, whether it's Kayvon Thibodeau or maybe you grab a Treylon Burks, and now you're pairing Burks with Carson Strong. I mean, I don't think that would be a bad way to start out Strong's career. We'll see what happens with them, but I'm kind of with Moxley here. I think just because of the way the class is. I mean, again, I always throw this up. The Browns have traded up and drafted Brandon Weeden of all quarterbacks. And granted, the Browns were a horrible franchise, still kind of are, but still, like, we've seen a lot of bad quarterbacks drafted in the first round. Before we move on from this, I do want to get your guys' thoughts really quick, and I'll go to you first, Colin. Dubs and Turner, because Brandon said he thinks all three go in the top 5. What are your thoughts on them? Because, Dubs was a guy who got a lot of draft hype last year, and then he went back to school. And I usually assume they do that because maybe they don't get the draft grades they thought they were going to get. And then Cole Turner, you've been a big proponent on tight ends who move, or wide receivers who move to tight end. He's not, at least that I've seen, gotten a lot of NFL draft love. So do you think both these guys can be drafted in the top 5 rounds as well?
Top 5 rounds? Yeah, for sure. I'll start with Dubs. I think Dubs is a fringe day 2 guy, probably more day 3, probably more like a round 4 guy at this point. I mean, he's fine. He'll make a roster. He'll stick around for a while. I don't know if he'll ever be fantasy relevant for you at the NFL level. He's just more of like a number 2 kind of a guy. That's just where he tends to do best. And I mean, you mentioned his stat line last night. Melquan Stovall had 9 catches for 90 yards, so he outproduced him there. So there's always somebody on that offense that seems to have a better stat line than Dubs week in and week out. I mean, Dubs is just very consistent. So I think that you could see that at the next level, but I don't know if he's ever going to be fantasy relevant for you. Cole Turner, I mean, you nailed it. I love wide receivers who move to tight end, especially at his size. I think he's got the size for it. He's got the athleticism, the pass catching ability. I think he can definitely be a fantasy asset for your team at the next level. I think he definitely gets drafted in the top 5 rounds. I'd be shocked if he didn't. Now, how high can he go? I think round 3 is probably his ceiling. So a late day 2 guy, probably, and like similar to Dubs, maybe early round 3, depending on if anybody out there is looking for a tight end. But this is a pretty weak tight end class too, so that could also bolster him up. So I feel pretty good about like a late day 2 for him.
Moxley, anything to add before we move on to prize picks?
No, I'm pretty much in agreement with Colin there. I think Turner could go higher, but I'm not really sold on Dubs being like a legit NFL guy. I don't know. He's okay. He's fine. Like, he'll get drafted, but I would be shocked if he went day 2. I just don't think he's good enough. And this is a pretty good wide receiver class.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where both of those guys land, because I think, especially with Turner, because I really do like Turner as well. I mean, I didn't really think much of him until Colin actually talked about him a lot this offseason. I kind of really got into looking at him, and I like him. He's one of those tight ends I think has got to have to go to an offense that's going to use him the correct way. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. So I'm very curious to see where his landing spot is, and I kind of agree with you, Chris. Like, I like Dubs, but I think, like, at best, he's probably a wide receiver 3 for fantasy, and I think that's at best. Like, I don't know that he's not a 1 or 2 for any team wise, I think, and when it comes to fantasy, I don't know that he puts up those stats, but I do like him as a player. All right, so prize picks. I'm going to forget all about this. So you guys can go to prize picks. You can enter up to $100 with your first deposit. They will match it. And if you do that, or you can just do $20, you get a free subscription to our website at campus2canton.com.
Wait. So you're telling me if you put in $20, just $20, they'll match it and you get a free subscription to C2C, a $30
That's what
value?
I'm told. It wasn't written down for me, so I didn't get to pull my anchor man, just read it straight off the script. So I'm just going straight off the noggin here. It is mind-blowing. And I'm going to tell you what, if you guys don't watch, Moxley and Will go live every Thursday. They're doing a great job. They're winning people a ton of money. You'll get your money back, I bet you, doubled, tripled in a week or 2 just by listening to them. And that's all comes free with our website. So definitely do that if you guys want. Again, you have to enter promo code C2C to get that. And then once that happens, Colin there will get a wonderful little email telling him, and then he'll reach out to you and get you guys set up. But definitely do that. The website, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of great people in there. Join the Discord, all that other good stuff. Yeah, that's right, Felix. That's right. What? Yeah, Mr. Sharp there tuning in this morning. Thank you, sir. Thank you, good sir. All right, we're moving on now to Brandon Hay with your prize picks. Let us know who you are trusting this week.
Yeah, so for quarterbacks, I'm going with Adrian Martinez with the over of 37.5 rush yards. So in 2 of his last 3, he has over 100 rushing yards. The one he doesn't is against Fordham. I think that just since Nebraska has the talent over Fordham, he didn't have to run in that game. So I have the over for Adrian Martinez there. Desmond Ridder, I have the under in 262.5 pass yards against Tulane. I think they could throw the ball all over him. but I was wrong about this when they played an overmatched UCF game. They just kind of ran it, and if they get the lead, I think Ritter won't necessarily have to pass the ball. And the last one is Jordan Travis for Florida State. I'm doing the over and on 0.5 interceptions, so that just means he's going to throw at least one. They play Clemson, and he hasn't been very turnover prone this year, but I just think against that good Clemson defense, he's going to slip up at least once and throw an interception there.
Yeah, it's probably a good call. I mean, Austin talks about the interception ones on our Discord a lot. They're not very well proportioned to quarterbacks, so I think that's a good one to hit. And I will say I agree with your Desmond Ritter one a lot as well. We'll talk a little bit more about him and start sits, but I agree with that as well. Moxley, what have you got for us this week?
I'm kicking it off with Henry Colombi. I've gone to him a couple times this year, and I think I've just gone to him on the wrong weeks, if I'm being honest. The over 232.5 is pretty good. Kansas State ranks 119th against the in terms of passing success rate on defense. And Colombi's hit this mark already 3 times this year. We think of him differently because I think he hasn't just scored a lot of touchdowns, which I think is just bad luck. So I like him going over this number because I think that they're going to have to pass because K-State is better on the ground. What am I saying? K-State, Oklahoma. I'm all over this morning. They're missing all their defensive backs, and I don't really care for them. Max Duggan, who does play K-State, I like him to go over the same number, 232.5, for all the reasons I just said. Columbia, because I'm an idiot. I like Duggan to go over that number. I think that I think he has a good shot to be in a game with a high total, and I don't love Zach Evans this week again because the matchup on the ground is a little bit tougher. And then I like Sam Hartman to go over 296.5. He is pretty much the entire offense right now, and Duke is terrible. So I think anywhere I can get him under 300 is great. And I'm going to add one more that I didn't give you on the sheet that I just saw now because Anthony Richardson is going to start today over 12.5 fantasy points. Boom. Nice. Lock it in. I think that he can do a little something against that Georgia team. He's just so dynamic. Like I don't think it's going to be hard for him to get to 12.5.
I do. But I can see him going over, but I don't think it's going to be easy for him. I think it's going to be hard for him to get over it, but I definitely see him going over that. That's interesting. We might have to talk a little bit about that later, him starting against Georgia. I don't know that changes anything, because we will be picking that game. All right, so for me, I have got 2 here because I agree with a lot of them, like the Sam Hartman one. I agree with. I mentioned Brandon Hayes, Desmond Ritter. I agree with as well, and I'm going with Sam Howell here. And this might be a little bit. I told you guys before. Oh no, I forgot to load it in. I wanted to put my Live Dangerously Austin Powers video in here. Shit, I like to live dangerously a little bit, and I like to pick props that maybe some other people wouldn't. And I'm taking Sam Howell with the over on 259.5 passing yards. He's done it in 4 games this year, and Notre Dame is allowing 245.9 passing yards a game. They're 95th in college football. I think this game has some sneaky offensive upside in this one because I think Notre Dame is going to play. UNC's defense is horrible, and so I think the offense for Notre Dame might be pretty good in this one. Sam Howell's going to come out throwing. I think this could be a statement game for him. I really think this could. He has not played good in a couple games. So I think this could be one of those ones that he kind of steps up a little bit and plays really well. So I'm taking the over on his passing yards. And then CJ Stroud, I'm taking the over on his interceptions at 0.5. Penn State's defense is getting crapped on a lot this year, but I don't know that they've actually been as bad as people have said they are. I really think that secondary is very good. I feel like I'm just becoming a full-on CJ Stroud hater because I keep saying every single week that this defense, that he's not played a very good defense. Indiana last week had a lot of their top players out. Penn State doesn't. And I do think Penn State's going to be able to confuse him a little bit. I think he throws at least 1 interception. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad game, but I could see him throwing an interception this one against the Nittany Lions. So I'm taking the over on that. Colin, what have you got?
Yeah, I think that's a good call on the over there. I mean, Penn State's rush defense is kind of terrible since PJ Mustipher went out, but the secondary is still really good. There's some really good NFL prospects in that secondary. I have 2 here, and I love these plays this week. Tyler Van Dyke over 242.5 passing yards. He has been very comfortably over that the past 2 weeks. North Carolina State, 325 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. Week before that at North Carolina, 264 yards. I think this game's going to be more of a shootout. I mean, Pitt's offense has been rolling. They're going to have to throw the ball to keep up with them. I think this is a pretty easy over here for me. And then the next one, death, taxes, and Garrett Schrader over his rushing yards prop. I mean, outside of that Clemson game, he's gone over 100 yards the past 3 weeks, and it's been very comfortably over 100 yards. So he had 137 yards 4 weeks ago against Florida State, 178 yards against Wake Forest, 174 yards last week against Virginia Tech. Boston College shouldn't really scare anybody. Over 69 and a half rushing yards seems like a slam dunk to me. I'm not going to stake my reputation on it because I don't want to break out the bag again, but I feel very good about both of these plays.
All right, Brandon, what you got for running back prize picks?
So one is actually in the Michigan State game. I have Blake Corum under 94 and a half rush yards. I know Michigan State's defense hasn't been great this year, but in big games, I guess as big as Michigan's had this year, Corum hasn't done nearly as well, and it seems like when they really are struggling, they kind of rely on Haskins, especially around the goal line, and they haven't really been getting the ball to Corum, passing the ball. Oh, I don't know why I brought that up. That's later because I think I'm talking about Blake Corum in the start set. So just rushing. So yeah, I have him under that 94 and a half rushing yards against Michigan State. Rashad White had over 3 receptions against Washington State. They like to use him quite a bit out of the backfield, so I think that's a pretty low number, and I could see him going over that. And the last is Chase Brown, the over on the touchdowns. It's 0.5, so he just has to score 1 touchdown. He has 3 TDs in the last 3 games. Illinois is horrible at passing the ball. They're 124th. As we saw in that 9 overtime game, I don't know who's starting for them. I think Sikowski's probably out if Peters plays. None of those quarterbacks in the wide receivers have really done much this year, so they have to run the ball. So I would think when they do get down there with against North, I think they're playing Northwestern. They will, Brown will get the carries and probably get a touchdown today.
Moxley, what have you got?
I like Abram Smith over 99.5 yards. He's really the focal point of that Baylor offense right now with Gary Bohannon. I think that Texas is not a scary matchup. They've been run over a bunch this year. And we just saw Smith post 188 yards. I think he's locked in for over 100. I think that there's a lot of value on that line because Baylor is favored to win. So I do think that they can they're probably going to keep the game close, and I think they'll probably run a lot today. The second one, and I really like this one. I think it's a little bit too low. Jahmyr Gibbs over 2.5 receptions. He's done that in 3 straight games. We know his prowess in the passing game. I think they're going to have to throw a little bit as well today. Virginia Tech isn't a scary matchup, but Gibbs is just their most dynamic player, and I would be surprised if they just didn't toss him a couple. He could hit that on the first drive, to be honest. If we're guessing, he's just so dynamic in the passing game. I'd be surprised if he went under that mark. He's already hit it 4 times this year. And then I also like Deuce Vaughn over 4 receptions. Again, I have a lot of interest in that game because I think that game has sneaky shootout potential. The total is 59 right now. Again, Deuce Vaughn is the entire offense for Kansas State, the same way Jahmyr Gibbs is for Georgia Tech. He's very dynamic in the receiving game. He's hit this mark of, I think, 4 out of his 7 games already this year. So I'm not really scared about him falling short, especially if we think it's going to be close, which I do think it will be. And then I have one more that I didn't give you that I just found this morning.
My
that I really like.
goodness.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Travion Henderson over 93.5. Sorry. I love that. Sorry, Colin.
Yeah, Colin's got that too, I believe. Yeah, so just a really quick, Illinois is playing Rutgers this week, so they do have a nice easy matchup there, as Brandon was talking about.
Rutgers is favorite. What do you mean easy matchup?
I mean, Rutgers is not good. So moving on to mine, Israel Abanikanda, I think is how you say his name, channeling my inner Austin here. I think he gets a rushing touchdown this week. He's got 0.5 on the rushing touchdown. Miami has allowed 10 on the season. That's 45th in college, and I expect him to find the end zone. And next, this might lead a little bit to who I may be picking later in the show. Kenneth Walker, rushing yards, 86.5. I'm taking the over. I know Michigan is 24th in the nation in stopping the run, but they are allowing 116.6 yards a game. Kenneth Walker is the offense for Michigan State. I do think this will be a classic best versus best scenario with Michigan trying to stop the run. Both teams, all they do is run the ball, and I think that's what both defenses will key in on. But I think Kenneth Walker can go over. He's just been so damn good this year. All right, go ahead.
I got 2 plays for you here today. First one, Will Shipley over 58.5 yards rushing. They get Florida State this week. That really shouldn't scare anybody. Florida State's a pretty soft matchup. But Will Shipley, he's back this week. Or he was back last week. 10 carries, 52 yards against Pitt. Game script kind of got away from them, but he did lead them in carries last week. I expect this game to be a lot closer. I think that they're going to be in the game a lot longer. They're going to try to run the ball here. I think this is a pretty easy one there because 2 weeks before he got hurt this year, he went 80 and 88 yards. So they were starting to feature him. I think that's going to continue. And then I also have Travion over 93.5 yards rushing. I think this is very easy. 93.5 yards, pretty high, kind of intimidating, but Penn State just got gashed on the ground last week by Illinois. By true freshman McCray and by Chase Brown. Their secondary is very good. So I expect Ohio State to want to run the ball in this one. I think this is a pretty easy one. Again, not willing to stake my reputation on it. So I don't want to break out the bag again. I could also see him having like 90 yards rushing and 90 yards receiving if that's how it works out. But he's going to have a huge game. I think it's going to come on the ground.
I didn't realize you had this, Colin. I would not have mentioned it. I did not read ahead in the show sheet, and so it's an easy one. Didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I love this one as well.
All right, Brandon, hit us with your wide receiver prize picks.
Yeah, so first I have Chris Olave. It's at 71.5 receiving yards. I have the over on this. He's usually gets some big plays. He has 2 of his last 3 games. He has over 100 yards. So I think he'll do the over here. So I like Olave on that one. And then the next one is Cornelius Johnson for Michigan. His number is 2.5 receptions. I do the over. Like it's kind of been mentioned, both teams like to run the ball, so I think they're going to try to stop that. So I think Michigan will have to try to pass the ball. Will they be successful at that? It's a toss-up, but Cornelius Johnson is really the only wide receiver that they consistently target. And he's kind of the big-bodied receiver that they like to go to short. So I have the over there. And the last one, we're talking about Rutgers. I have Bo Melton. Cruikshank, I believe I heard was out. So I think that they'll target him more. And 2 of the last 3 games he's played, he's been over 100 yards. He's been dealing with some injuries. So even though Rutgers doesn't have an explosive offense, I think Bo Melton should be able to go over that 59.5 receiving yards mark today.
All right, Moxley, what about you?
So I like Jadon Hazelwood to go over 13 fantasy points. He's quietly become the wide receiver 1 in that for that offense. I did not expect that coming. I thought it would be Marvin Mims, but Hazelwood has 19 targets over his last 3 games, and he's basically lapping everybody else with this number. I don't think 13 is a big ask either because DraftKings is PPR. So I don't think it's crazy to see him go 4 for like 16 a touchdown. Like I think that's very easily doable. The second one that I like is Quentin Johnston over 16. Again, I'm on the Duggan prop as well. So Quentin Johnston has just been fantastic this year, right? Like he's done everything we've asked and more. I think he's the wide receiver 2 for that 2023 class if I'm picking it today. And he is basically the only one in that passing game that really matters. And this is a pretty soft matchup for them. So I like Quentin, and I've gone to Quentin Johnston a couple times this year, and he's let me down on prize picks. I'm going to be honest. I seem to always get his big games wrong. But I think this is going to be a big matchup this week after a monster performance last week.
So what you're saying is everybody else do not play the Quentin Johnston prop and sit him in fantasy.
Fade Johnston today.
All right. So for me, I've only got one. And again, this is kind of like the Sam Howell one, but I am in on Sam Howell. So I'm going with Josh Downs here. 8.5 receptions. He's actually getting like 8 receptions a game in almost every single game. So this is like the perfectly placed prop, but I think he can get 9 today. Cause again, I think this is going to be a sneaky offensive game. And I don't think that UNC is going to be able to run on Notre Dame at all. So I think they're going to pass the ball here. And I think Josh Downs goes over. I think Downs and Howell are both in for massive games today.
I have 2 in this one. I have another Chris Moxley special here. Phillip Brooks over 46.5. I mean, they get but TCU or no, yeah, they get TCU, right? Yeah, they get TCU. That's a soft matchup there, and Skylar Thompson is back. With Skylar Thompson back, I think their offense is more explosive. Scotty Brooks, 55 yards against Oklahoma, 54 yards against Iowa State. He did have 37 last week and a little bit of a letdown spot, but those are his last 3 games with Skylar Thompson. First 2 were over it. I think they go over it on this one as well. And then my other one I have is Eric Ezukanma. They get Oklahoma this week. Resident Oklahoma expert Nate Marquise at CFF Nate dropped a nice nugget on Twitter. Oklahoma is dead last in defending passes. 5.2% of passes defended lead to a breakup or interception. So guys are running wide open on the outside there. I think Texas Tech's going to have to open this up and throw the ball a little bit more. As I like Ezukanma a lot, over 67.5.
I also
like all right. So let's talk about our start sits. And before we get into mine, there was a question that just popped up from a Bat Mooning question for you guys here. Would you start Chase Brown or Quentin Johnston? Who would you guys rather start today? Must-win situation.
I think Brown's safer.
Okay, cool. That's who.
Yeah,
that's
I
who.
agree.
I believe that's who Bat had in his lineup. So I was just double checking that was the right move. Good call, buddy. All right, let's get on to our start
Mr.
sits.
Mooning.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mooning. We appreciate all the questions and comments we get in the mornings. All right, Malik Cunningham for Louisville. He is one of my starts this week. I think he's going to finish top 10 at QB today. He's going up against NC State, and I know NC State is the 17th ranked overall defense, but I believe in what Cunningham can do with his legs and his arm today. Wheels up for Malik Cunningham coming off the bye. My next start, my guy, BJ Baylor. I don't know that he's ever going to get drafted or do anything in the NFL, but my God, this kid is just killing it in college football this year. He is going up against Cal, who is the 30th ranked defense against the run, but they are allowing 120 yards per game. Plus, they've allowed 8 rushing touchdowns on the year. I think Baylor gets 1. He's going over 100, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of betting on him making 2 touchdowns on the ground today. So I am all in on BJ Baylor. Thanks for correcting me on that one. I don't know why I had that. I'm going with Mekhi Polk, and I did not do my notes right as Colin corrected me behind the scene. Thank you. They're going against Kentucky, who's got a really good secondary, which is not quite what I was expecting here. But you know what? I don't care. He's going to get close to 100 yards and at least a touchdown through the air today. I'm starting Polk. All right, because the rest of my notes aren't going to make any sense. So we're going to go to Chris Moxley here. Moxley, who are you starting this week?
First, like Travis Dye. Travis Dye has basically become the true dominant lead back for Oregon. They got Colorado this week, and Colorado's terrible. They're bottom 20 against the rush and the pass. I think Oregon handles this game, and they're going to be up by a ton of points. So I think they probably lean on Dye to get there and just keep feeding him for at least the first 3 quarters until he gets pulled because they're up by 30. The second one I like, and we're all talking about this morning, the entirety of the Texas Tech passing game. Oklahoma is missing it's either 4 of their top 5 or 3 of their top 4 DBs, depending on who's back today. That secondary is beat up and really bad right now. I think you can start Colombi. I think you can start Kalen Geiger. I think you can start Eric Ezukanma. I think you can start Travis Kuntz, tight end. I think you can start them all. I think that this game has big-time shootout potential, and I think Texas Tech is going to put up a good amount of points today. So I'm going with that entire passing game. And then I like Mateo Durant. I kind of like his prize pick prop too. It's 109.5, but we saw Wake Forest just bleed points on bleed rushing yards last week. And Army's a triple option team, so it's a little bit different. But Taylor Durant's an excellent running back, and he's performed well even in Duke's losses this year. So I think there's a good shot that you see Taylor Durant have a big game, even though I think they're 17.5-point dogs currently. They don't really care. They're just going to run Durant anyway because he's really their most effective player on offense. So I really like Durant. I think he is going to surprise people today. I don't know. Is that a surprise? Like that they're 17-point dogs? I don't know, but I really like him.
No, I've got nothing to add. But Colin,
I think it's Brandon's up next.
Yeah, it's me
or Brandon, whichever wants to go.
All right, yeah. So I'll go. So I'm kind of stepping out on the ledge. This week was my first start. I'm saying to start Bo Nix. He had maybe one of his best games against Arkansas a couple weeks ago, and Ole Miss has been giving up some big games to quarterbacks. Hendon Hooker for Tennessee had over 30 fantasy points, and KJ Jefferson a few weeks ago had over 50. So I think to keep up with Ole Miss, they're going to have to score a lot of points, and they've kind of been hit or miss, with Tank not rushing the ball nearly as effective as, he has in the past. So I think they'll have to throw the ball. So hopefully this is the good Bo Nix week. And my next is Ryan O'Keefe, UCF versus Temple. So he has 23 receptions in the last 3 games and 40 rushing yards each of the last 2. So I remember watching the UCF game last week. They kind of talked about in the broadcast that they're trying to get O'Keefe the ball more, but since Robinson's been out, so I have him as a start. And Abram Smith was talked about before by Chris, but I think that he's going to have another big game against Texas. Their rush defense is not very good. It's 105th. And over the last 3 games, he's had over 350 yards and 5 TDs. So I think he continues that today.
I have first start here. I got Grant Wells. He has thrown for over 300 yards in every single game this year, except for 2. The one game was was 299 yards. So essentially only one game under 300 yards. FIU is the second worst pass defense. They give up 305 pass yards per game. I think this is going to be a big week here for him. Next up, I do have Victor Tucker. Victor Tucker, wide receiver, Charlotte. They get Western Kentucky this week. That's a bad defense. That game should be a shootout. Last 2 weeks, he's gone 6 for 105 and 8 for 92 and a touchdown. So he's had pretty nice weeks the last 2 weeks. If Charlotte's going to be in this game at all, I think they're going to have to do something through the air. And then lastly, I have Kai Thomas and Marquise Irving. I have both of them. I think you can start both of them this week. Northwestern's run defense is bad. They gave up over 100 yards and a touchdown to both Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins last week. I could see that again this week for Kai Thomas and Marquise Irving. And both of them had over 100 yards and a touchdown last week as well. The running back rotation, Brandon Williams fell out of it a little bit, and they leaned a little bit more heavily on Kai Thomas, Marquise Irving. I'm hoping that trend continues, but I like both of them this week.
All right, so let's move on to our sits, and I will kick it off with Desmond Ridder. I mentioned him earlier when Brandon talked about his prospects, and he took the under, and I said I agree with him. Tulane is not a good team right now. Their defense is bad, and the fact that Michael Pratt's likely going to be out, I think means Tulane's not going to be able to even put up many points against the Cincinnati defense. So I don't think Ritter's going to have to do much. I could see this being a lot like that UCF game that Brandon mentioned earlier, where maybe it's not just Jerome Ford, but if Ridder throws like 2 touchdowns, maybe he has like 200 yards, and then they're just call it a day and let him sit, or they don't really put their foot on the gas, which they may have to do, because obviously the game last week did not really go in their favor. I think they need to get some style points here if they want to make the playoffs. But I think Desmond Ridder could be in for just a subpar day, like a 20 to 24-point day. And as we know, a quarterback in college, at least, that is not a great start. You want your guys to hit like 30-plus points. Next up, I've got Tank Bigsby. Brandon mentioned earlier he has not been playing well. I know some people are still starting him. I mean, Colin and I have to in a 50-teamer, but he has not been good. He has really kind of been bad here. I know that Ole Miss has given up production here, but I just don't know that he gets it today. I don't know that he goes over 50, 60, 70 yards. Maybe he gets a touchdown, so he gets you 13, 14 points. But overall, I don't think he's in for a massive day. And then last but not least, I had to pick one. And it's funny because Colin picked the same one. So I'll let you kind of talk more about him. But I picked JSN. I don't know that all three of these wide receivers have good days. And although JSN really has come on the past couple of weeks with Stroud, I think he's the guy to sit out of this Ohio State wide receiver room. Moxley, who are you sitting in week 9?
I'm sitting everybody in the Clemson Florida State game. This is good, like two really, really good defenses. I don't think you can play DJU like at all. Like basically, you got to be really, really desperate. I don't think you can play Jordan Travis. I don't trust any wide receiver in this matchup. It sounds like Nagata's going to play, probably. So do he and Justin Ross cannibalize each other? Maybe. The only player I think, even if you're desperate, is probably Will Shipley, because I think that he's the best player on the field. To be honest, like both offenses are terrible. I don't want anything to do with this game. Second is Jake Haener, and I think people are not blind to it, but Jake Haener has not been as good since he got injured against UCLA. Like he really he put his basically body on the line to win that game, which was awesome. He just hasn't been that good. And this is not an easy matchup against San Diego State. San Diego State is like one of the country's better defenses. I think we probably need to pump the brakes on starting Haener. He's just not a great option this week. And the total is 44.5. So they're not expecting a lot of points to be scored anyway. And then my last one is Jahan Dotson. I don't really trust the Penn State passing game to put up like enough points. Dotson was limited by Illinois last week. Ohio State's been better really since they made the play calling switch. So I kind of like Penn State to like not score at all. To be honest, I don't know how they're going to get points, and I definitely don't think it's coming from Dotson. So he's not in my lineup, despite having a very good year.
Brandon, who are you sitting in week 9?
Yeah, so I kind of rambled when I was doing the Blake Corum rushing prize pick. So, much the same. They don't really get the ball as much as I would think they should in the passing game. And I see him not necessarily getting touchdowns and limited on the rushing. So I'm saying sit him. The other person I'm saying to sit is Xavier Worthy. Baylor has a top 40 pass defense. And I see that maybe, being a close game. And Worthy has kind of been either a boom or bust type guy. Last game out against Oklahoma State, he only had 5 catches for 28 yards. So, and with Casey Thompson kind of having some struggles in second halves, I do wonder how well they'll be able to pass the ball coming off of the bye. And my last one is Khalil Shakir, where for Boise State, he has only had 1 touchdown the last 3 games and is not really putting up huge numbers. He can probably get you double digits, but what you're expecting from him, a high-end receiver, I just don't think you're going to be able to get that this week.
Yeah, that's not what I want to hear about Shakir. But I have sit JSN here just like Matt does. Look, he's been good the past 2 weeks, like Matt said. He's 6 for 99, 5 for 103 the last 2 weeks. He now has more yards on the year than Olave. But I think Travion is going to run wild in this game. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, Penn State secondary is actually pretty good. Run defense, not as much. So they can lean on the run game pretty heavily this week. Now, you can't start all 3 of them, and I would be hesitant to start any of them, but you probably can't sit Wilson or Olave. So I don't love starting either of them, but I'm not starting JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. My next sit here, I have Devin Neal. I have Letty Brown. Sorry, Matt. Didn't mean to mess up.
You can talk about whichever one you want to talk about. You tell me.
All right, we'll go Devin Neal. He went over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns last week against Oklahoma. But this week, they get Oklahoma State, 12th best run defense. They give up 94 rush yards per game. They just held Breece Hall to 70 yards and a touchdown last week. I don't trust that Kansas offense. I think last week was kind of a flash in the pan. So I'm not starting Devin Neal, even though I do really like him as a prospect. And last guy up, Letty Brown. Letty Brown's been really up and down this year based on the opponent. He had sub 60 yards 3 weeks in a row against Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Baylor. They get Iowa State this week. Iowa State's a very good run defense. I don't trust Letty Brown this week.
Yeah, just for context, just so we're being 100% transparency and honest with people here. Every time on this show we tell you to sit JSN, it's a lot like when Chris Moxley tells you to take the under on Drake London's receiving props. We are dead wrong, so it's probably start JSN day because every time me or Austin has said that, JSN has gone crazy. So just throwing it out there, me and Colin may end up eating our words by like 1 o'clock Central Time. But yeah, I'm with him on that. I think it's going to be a much closer game than people are giving them credit for. All right, so let's get into our game picks here. We're going to start it right off the top here with one that has just completely divided our Slack channel. I mean, it has been horrible in there. A lot of fighting words thrown around, people's feelings getting hurt. Michigan versus Michigan State. It's the first time, I believe, in the rivalry that both have been undefeated. But I will also mention, and I heard that this morning, when both these teams have been ranked, Michigan State has won all 3 of those matchups, and that's who I'm picking to win it. I know Michigan has been amazing this year, and Michigan State may look a little bit like a fraud because they've leaned heavily on Kenneth Walker. And Brandon mentioned it earlier in the show. I think both teams are going to try and stop the runs. Where I give Michigan State the upside is they've got better receivers, and Peyton Thorne has been pretty good this year. If Jaden Reed can get a couple explosive plays, I think Michigan State can pull this out. It's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to 1 or 2 big explosive plays, and I think Michigan State's going to have them from their wide receivers. Colin, who are you picking?
Yeah, I also have Michigan State this week here as well. Look, both of these teams run the ball very well. So I think what it's going to really come down to is Michigan's defense versus Michigan State's passing offense. Michigan gets after the quarterback. Aiden Hutchinson has been an animal all year this year. If Michigan State can protect Peyton Thorne and give him time and let that passing attack, start to eat up Michigan's defense, I think they're going to have a really good shot to win this week. Michigan hasn't really faced a good offense all year. Nebraska is the best offense that they've played, and that's really just the fighting Adrian Martinez's. I think this is going to be a tough test. This is going to be a really good game, one I'm definitely looking forward to watch. But give me Michigan State.
Man, y'all are just killing me here. No faith in Jim Harbaugh, huh?
No, have you seen his coaching career at Michigan?
I like Michigan this week. I think Matt's right that it's going to come down to explosive plays and whether or not Michigan State can pull them off. Michigan is top 10 in limiting explosive plays in both the rush and passing offense. They're allowing a 9.7 explosive pass rate, top 10, 11.4 explosive rush rate, top 10. I don't think Sparty can get enough points this week. And I think Michigan, they've gotten very lucky with turnovers and special teams. I think Michigan is the better team. I think they're going to win this game.
So obviously, I'm going with Michigan. I could not go against them, but some of the points are well taken about, especially with the Michigan State does have the better passing attack, and they have done a lot of trick plays, flea flickers early in games. So if they hit a couple of those, I could see this getting kind of off the rails early. I think it's going to be big because Harbaugh has had struggles on the road against good teams. I think Michigan needs to come out strong early on, but I obviously have to take Michigan in this one.
Hey, no, I appreciate it. And it was very hard for me to pick between these two. Like, it was a razor-thin margin. I agree with what Colin said. I think it's going to be a very, very good game. All right, next up, Georgia, Florida. And we just found out earlier, as Moxley mentioned, Anthony Richardson, AR-15, is starting for this game today for the Gators. I really don't think that changes much. Georgia has the best defense in all the land. I'm taking Georgia. I don't know that they're going to be – I actually think with him playing, this might be closer than what it was originally thought. But I still think that AR-15 in this Florida offense is not going to put up enough points, though Georgia's offense is kind of crappy too. But I'm taking the Georgia defense.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. Give me Georgia in this one. I don't really think it's going to be all that close. Georgia's defense is really good. AR-15, great athlete, but still has a lot of work to do as a quarterback. Georgia's defense has athletes all over it. So, I mean, he could bust a big play, but I think Georgia's going to really focus on keeping him in check. And I think this is going to be not a blowout, but Georgia comfortably.
So I also like Georgia, but I think this could be a spot for an upset. I think the Dogs are probably going to win, but this game scares me a little bit because I think Florida can play with them in the trenches. They have really, really good. They're really, really good offensive line and defensive line. And so I think this game could come down to can Anthony Richardson pull off a couple big plays? I think Georgia ultimately wins because their defense is historic, probably one of the best we've ever seen. But this is going to be a close game. It really is. I think 14.5 is way too much.
I agree. I'll take Georgia, but living in Jacksonville, the game is in Jacksonville all the time. And this game is always really weird, even when one team is supposed to be a lot better. Georgia has tended to kind of choke in this game in the past. But like I said, I think Georgia's just too good defensively. But I do think it's going to be a lot closer than people think it's going to be, especially with Mullen finally coming to his senses and starting Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, and for just transparency reasons here, I forgot to mention, Austin is picking Michigan in the Michigan State game, and he is also taking Georgia in this game. Next up, Ole Miss at Auburn. I think this is going to be a really good game. I kind of agree with some of the stuff Brandon mentioned about Bo Nix. I mean, we've crapped on him so much over the past couple of years that I kind of feel like we aren't giving him any credit for the fact that he's actually been playing kind of better here against Auburn. I don't know that Tank Bigsby is going to be able to do much, but Ole Miss has been challenged a little bit. I'm going to take Auburn. I think that Bo Nix is going to have a little bit of Bo Nix magic, and he's going to get the win here against Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss has been through the ringer. If you look at their schedule and who they've played, Auburn has not had to do it. I think this could be an upset game here, and I'm taking Auburn and Bo Nix to get the upset.
I think what this game comes down to is Matt Corral's health. Last week he started, but they rode the rushing attack last week. They limited what Corral did. I think we could see some of that here this week as well. But if it comes down to it, I think they can unleash Matt Corral. And if he is healthy, I think that they're going to be too much for Auburn to handle. I don't trust Bo Nix. He likes to blow up in primetime spots.
I'm with Matt this week on this. Ole Miss is in pretty rough shape. They've really played a murderer's row of teams, right? They played just really tough matchups. Matt Corral still isn't healthy. He ran 29 times, and then I think he ran 3 or 4 design runs last week. I don't know if Auburn is the better team in a both healthy, both rested matchup, but I think they're going to win this week, and I think they might win comfortably. They are Vegas favorites, to be fair. So I think Vegas expects them to win as well, but I don't trust Ole Miss in this. They've just been they're going to run out of gas.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ole Miss, but obviously I don't feel great about it because of the things I've said, and obviously me pulling for Bo Nix with my start. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close, but I'm just going to go with Ole Miss. I think even injured Corral will come up with some plays to help them win the game.
I see Dwight's in the house. What's up, Sparty? Here you go. Me and Colin are on the train with you here, Dwight. We're picking a win for you, so I'm hoping for you. I'm rooting for you, my friend. All right, next up, SMU at Houston. Oh, Austin did pick Ole Miss as well to win this game. All right, so let's go SMU Houston. I'm going SMU. I'm trusting Tanner Mordecai to get the win here. That's it. End of story. That's who I'm trusting. I know Clayton Tune has been okay. I'm going with Tanner Mordecai.
Mordecai for Heisman, baby. Why is nobody talking about this? SMU's undefeated. They're 7-0. This is going to be a tough matchup here.
Mike Valeri is. He's, I think, the only person.
Mike Valeri is. Yes, thank you, Mike. Dirty Mike in the Boyds. Thank you, Mike. But yeah, Tanner Mordecai for Heisman. I think that SMU is going to show out in this one here. You can't stop that offense. It's too good.
So I picked SMU, and I wish I had picked Houston, if we're being honest. I have money on SMU. I have them +1, so I felt like I had to take them, and I regret making that pick too. I think Houston's the better team. It's going to come down to one thing: can the SMU secondary stop Clayton Tune? And I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that, because Houston has a really good front seven, and I think they can get after Tanner Mordecai. But if Tanner Mordecai can let's go back to the roots of the air raid. I think we can do it. I think if they can get the ball out quick enough, that's the path to winning. Vegas has it as a pick 'em or 1 point spread. Let's keep riding the Mustangs. I don't feel great about it though.
Yeah, I don't have much analysis on this. I picked Houston. Mostly, I think it's a pick 'em game, and since they're at home, I gave them the little edge there. So give me Houston.
Austin is taking Houston as well. So this is going to be a big week because me and him and Brandon are all separated by 1 game, and I am going opposite you guys in a lot of these. So I could be sitting with Colin and Moxley at the bottom of the pool by the end of today, which is not going to make me feel
I'm coming
good.
back. I'm having to come back.
I'm trending in the wrong direction.
The game of the day here, Penn State versus Ohio State. I can't, even if I think they're going to win it, but even if I didn't, I'm not picking against my Buckeyes. I just can't. But I do think this is going to be a closer game. I think it opened at like 18 points. I know CJ Stroud and this offense have been really good. If Sean Clifford was healthy, I think this would be an even closer game because I don't know that this defense has turned it around quite fully healthy. I don't know that he's fully healthy. Colin just gave me a look. I don't know. I don't think he's 100%, at least based on that game last week against Illinois. But I don't know that Ohio State's defense is quite as improved as they've gotten credit for when they beat up on Rutgers, Maryland, and I don't even remember who, and a bad Indiana team with like their 3rd string walk-on quarterback. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on this defense being super, super amazing. But I think this offense is going to do enough to get the win.
I am abstaining from this game.
That's
I can't pick it.
Looks like you picked Penn State. Oh, no.
I can't pick against Penn State. I refuse to pick against Penn State, but I would be lying if I said I felt good about this game at all. Penn State has struggled. Sean Clifford, he's banged up. He's probably at like 60% right now, but 60% Sean Clifford is better than anything we have behind him. I don't know that this game is going to be particularly close. Again, I abstain.
I'm not abstaining. Ohio State's going to crush Penn State this week. I have a lot of confidence in Ohio State just taking it to the Nittany Lion. What the hell is a Nittany Lion anyway? Both these mascots are actually bad.
It's a mountain lion that lives on Mount Nittany.
Dare you, sir? Brutus is a mascot legend.
He's the worst. He's the worst mascot in college football.
I prefer the Stanford tree, and I prefer the Syracuse orange. And that dude is literally a fucking orange.
All right. So, anyways, Brandon Hay, who are you taking? Moxley had some issues. I don't know what happened. I can't even see him in the background anymore. Oh no, he came back.
Yeah, I'm picking Ohio State in this one. And just a quick thing about the Travion line. I kind of talked to Debbie Matt about this. That we all know about the Travion line. The only reason I don't think he would get it is if it gets out of hand and they start playing more of the reserve players. But yeah, I have Ohio State by a lot.
I don't think that it'll get out of hand that early. I guess I'm on the opposite side of this because, man, everybody seems to think Ohio State's just going to win comfortably. I don't know that that's going to happen. So what do you guys want to talk about? I guess we're buying some time here because the other people can't show up on time. I don't know what else to say. So
Austin picked Ohio State and then in parentheses by a bajillion. So
I honestly think if Ohio State doesn't win by a bajillion, that should count as a loss for Austin because he put in a predicted score. So I'm holding him to that. All right, so it looks like Alfred is now here and possibly ready to go. All right, so guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Hour 1. We will catch you guys next week. It'll be now the Moxley and Alfred shows. They will win you guys a bunch of money. As always, go Buckeyes.
Oh, we got Matt.
Woo!
We got Matt cut off. Oh, go
Here
Braves!
we
Let's
are.
go.
Dude, it's good to see ya. I can't lie. I missed you guys. I thought Will was going to be here. I guess he's traveling. We're all traveling lately, myself included. But hey, man, you did a great job on Why Wait Till Sunday. I feel like I'm in a little bit of trouble. You're going to take over.
No, it was lonely on Wednesday.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I have a full-blown party upstairs. Partly for my father-in-law, my son, all their birthdays are within a week of each other. Everyone's all dressed up, and I'm the jerk party pooper who did not get dressed up and said, I have to go record a college football fantasy show this morning. But I'm here. I'm glad to be here. I missed 2 in a row. I couldn't miss another one, and everyone's just going to have to understand because we got to make that bread.
Gotta make that bread.
So as usual, what do we do in the first part is what we go over, guys we are changed our opinion on since we recorded Why Wait Till Sunday. So let's just jump into that. I know you did an extensive review on Thursday. Have you changed your mind on anyone? There's a couple of guys that you didn't mention that I kind of like, so I'd like to get your opinion there, but have you changed your mind on anyone from the other day?
I'm not sure if I've changed my mind, but a guy that I really liked was Vincent Davis at Pitt, but it sounds like Israel Abanikanda is going to play. He's warming up. He sounds healthy, so I don't think you can play him. And he was a guy that I was looking to for some savings this week, but I'm not really sure I've changed my mind. I think you could play Gunnar Holmberg though, and that's a guy that I've kind of been plugging in a little bit because he's cheap. He's 6,900 or 6,800.
Oh, Duke QB, yeah.
6,800. He's really. I don't trust that Wake Forest defense after just getting destroyed by Army. So I that's a guy that I've kind of pivoted to a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He just does not look like he has the proverbial it. He just looks bad when I've watched a couple Duke games because I'm usually in on Duke because their defense is so bad and they usually have to kind of like play that pinball type game. But man, he just, as a passer, I mean, he can run a little bit, but I'll tell you, you like Columbi. I know he's kind of been your guy for a little bit this year. But what about Aiden O'Connell? I know we texted about Aiden earlier in the week. He's 5,500, I think. And, the passing volume is there. He's a locked in starter. They're not flipping quarterbacks back and forth. So yeah, how do you feel about O'Connell? I mean, Nebraska's got a decent defense, but at 5,400 or whatever it is, I mean, you can afford, he doesn't have to go nuts for you.
Yeah, I just prefer Columbia in the same range. I actually prefer Anthony Richardson now that he's starting too. I think he's kind of sneaky. That's a tough matchup.
I know. I mean, he does say he's starting. What's his number on DraftKings?
5,900.
I just haven't even thought anything about that Florida Georgia game, but
it's 5,900.
Ooh.
So I've really come around on the idea that Florida can win this game for better or worse.
Oh, like, big time, dude. We'll talk about that in the bet section, I think.
I'm just saying, like I'm kind of getting a bad feeling from the dogs today with Anthony Richardson starting.
Dude, 5,900 for A-Rich. I mean, he doesn't have to dominate through the air and he can get, we'll talk a lot about, I think, the Gators later bets and prize picks, but I mean, 5,900, I'm kind of in. Now they'll still probably rotate, I suppose. I mean,
probably.
I guess it depends. I mean, if A-Rich is leading, and they're like winning the game, I don't see them taking him out. But if he makes a couple mistakes early or something like that, then that could be a problem. But if he starts and like they're playing well, I'm not sure Emory gets in the game. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I think he's cheap enough where you.
It's a tough week. We were texting about this week, and like it's so top heavy. Like I want all the expensive guys. There's not a lot of value that makes me comfortable at all. But just to give you a sense of this O'Connell guy, who I kind of like, but 52 attempts, 40 and 32. He had 40 against Iowa, played really well in a shocking matchup versus Iowa where they won the game. Wisconsin was ugly, but it's Wisconsin. He still attempted 32 passes against Wisconsin. Nebraska is a decent defense, but they're not Iowa and they're not Wisconsin. So, I mean, I think we could be looking at pushing 40 attempts in a game that, I think Purdue has a really nice chance to win this game. Actually, I'm on them and points. And, Adrian Martinez can certainly give some short fields to the other offense and things like that. So I kind of like him. I'll be flipping between him and Columbi for some savings, I think. And now I think we have A-Rich in the mix. So we do have some cheap quarterbacks, but we don't have a lot of cheap running backs is the big thing. You got to pay up for, Ford. Dye feels really good because he's going to give you 4 receptions.
Yeah. No, I like.
The question is Dye? I guess he's a risk to not give you a bonus on either side, rushing or receiving.
Yeah.
So that might be the problem there.
There aren't a lot of values, to be honest. I think the only value that it's a bummer that, well, good for Abanikanda that he's going to play, but it's
That's
a bummer
huge
that
bummer.
we lost that. Will Shipley's 5,700, but I don't really want to play that.
Between him and Maffa, I think they're going to play both of them, and Maffa's even cheaper in the 4s. So I don't mind Maffa. I mean, FSU I don't think they're very good in general.
Yeah. Kobe Pace isn't playing either. So
correct. And Lindsay Dixon's transferred. I mean, it's definitely Maffa and Shipley. Maffa's 4,100, and he has a couple games where he's caught a pass or two. They're probably going to be a 50-50 split, I guess. And Maffa might be the preferred guy if they do get down like to the 1 yard line or something like that. So I'll definitely have some Maffa. But yeah, Vincent Davis. I mean, we'll stay on obviously till noon, and early warmups does not mean he'll come back out dressed. So we have to wait and see. But yeah, if Abanikanda plays, I still think Vincent Davis might be in play, but it's definitely less fun. I mean, less of a lock. Where are you at in terms of tell me about, I know you talked him up on the show, and I was a little surprised because I'm not convinced he is the workhorse, but Abram Smith for Baylor. I mean, I know last game out he had what we would consider a bell cow type share, 27 attempts, caught 2 passes, so 29 touches. I mean, that's jackpot territory. But other than that, he had been flirting around 10 carries. Do you have any insight as to if last week was a blip or has he somehow taken over? I'm not aware of an injury or anything last week.
I think he's just taken over because he's been so good, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because
they were messing around with Ebner. Ebner was like another guy.
Yeah. I mean, Smith is averaging like 7.5 yards per carry this season. They haven't. So like the game script was kind of weird before that, but I mean, he was still getting like 80 plus and a touchdown. I think that this is a really good matchup for him this week. And so I think they're going to go back to him. And I don't know if we're going to get like a 29 touch game, but I think we're going to see at least like 18.
Well, he's definitely the preferred touchdown scorer. I mean, the other guy who has been sharing carries is Ebner, and Ebner has 0 touchdowns, and Abram Smith has 10.
I don't know where Chloe is.
Okay, you can go upstairs and find her. And Abram Smith has 10. So I mean, he's. I told you we had a party going on upstairs. So he's got I mean, the touchdown equity is definitely Abram Smith. 7,200. I mean, I like it. I think you can definitely play a running back in the 7,000s to feel good, or 2 running backs. I mean, like Durant and Durant and Abram Smith. I mean, I like Jerome Ford, of course, just like you, but I'm not sure you can get there because you got to pay up for quarterback. I mean, where are you at? I had a hard time. I mean, I've put together some Mox lineups, but like, what's the distribution of your salaries that you feel best about? You're muted.
Sorry, thanks. I'm playing a lot of Columbia this week.
I know. I just I can't get on that. So let's just flip out Columbia or O'Connell, whatever. They're about the same price. So where else are you going?
I have a lot of Jerome Ford and Brees Hall. To be honest, I'm playing some A-Rich in those lineups. I'm paying down. I like Tazir Mack from Pitt.
Yeah, I like both the secondary guys for Pitt, and Addison playing still doesn't really bother me there.
Yeah, I like Kalen Geiger. He's 4,800. I'm stacking him with Columbia. Oklahoma's secondary is beat up like real bad, so I think they could be in for a big game. And then I'm playing a lot of Jake Bobo this week.
Yeah,
and I like Holmberg as well for that reason in that matchup. That total's 70. So, I mean, I think you got to get some exposure to Duke this week in some way. I think Durant is a good way to do it. I like Jake Bobo. He's cheaper than Jalen Calhoun, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, he's such a PPR safe floor guy. I mean, he's going to catch 6 passes. So you're looking at like 12 points minimum. I was liking Bobo a little more when he was cheaper. I mean, he had been in the 4s for a while. I know he's not quite there today because it's a big total and everything. But yeah, I mean, you definitely don't mind Bobo at all. I wonder what a Columbia O'Connell just like totally fade. I wonder what you could do with a Columbia and O'Connell quarterback situation and just like fade the big quarterbacks all together. That would be a little interesting in terms of
I'm doing that. In a few.
I guess you could go.
I'm doing A-Rich.
You go A-Rich O'Connell, A-Rich O'Columbia, and then where are you spending all your big bucks?
The running backs. I'm paying up for Hall and Ford in most of those cases. I'm not playing Bijan's really hard to get to this week. Not that I don't like him. He's just hard to get to in a lot of lineups. I mean, he's 9,700 this week, I think. Yeah. So, I mean, you definitely can play him. It's tough to really get there. I don't have a lot of Deuce Vaughn, though. Deuce Vaughn's just like a little bit too, like, I'd rather play Jerome Ford for $200 cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, or Travis Dye. I mean, I feel like Travis Dye is very similar, and he's in terms of like touch expectancy and reception share and all that stuff, and he's pretty decently cheaper. So I agree with you there. One guy that I kind of like is Leonard Taylor for Cincinnati, and just because he's so cheap, 3,200, he's actually second on the team in receptions. I think somewhere between around 4 for 50-ish is probably expected. That's 9 points, which is almost 3x. And then, obviously, if he gets in the end zone, you're looking really pretty. So I think he's interesting. They're playing Tulane. They're going to put up 50 points. I don't hate it. I've been doing some of that where you just have to have some savings.
Yeah, I don't mind that either, but I'm not playing Ritter for sure.
No, not Ritter, and I'm not even stacking, but he's a one-off 32. I mean, I found most of the time I have to find some 3,000 guys, and there's just not a lot. I mean, some weeks there's a lot where we really like a bunch, but this week there's slim pickings down there at the bottom. There's just not a lot of guys I feel good about.
No, I'm with you. I think it's just not a good week. They gave us 14 games. They were all bad.
They were.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, they were all bad. It's I guess some of the more exciting games in the night slate. I haven't really looked at that just yet very extensively, but yeah, I mean, some of the games I don't like. I just don't know why you're putting Iowa, Wisconsin on the slate at all. Like, what is the point of that? No one in their right mind is going to really play anybody from that game. It's just kind of like taking up space. But what are you going to do? All right. Well, we will get some more information as injuries come in, as we always do, heading up to the 12 noon kickoff. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Abanikanda and Addison are in full pads in warmups. So and they were concussion, right? Both of them. Yeah. So it's not like they're testing out an ankle. Like, they must have cleared. So they should be full go, I would imagine.
I think so. Which I will play Abanaconda this week.
So I haven't even looked at Abanaconda. What's his
5,300?
52. And is he like clearly the lion's share between him and Davis, I suppose? They're similar.
Yeah, there's a third back that's involved. I'm blanking on his name right now. Who's been
Abanaconda looks like he has more reception potential.
Yeah, he's definitely I think the 1A there. Davis has not been very good this year.
I mean his efficiency is very low.
So you're banking on like a good-ish matchup against Miami. I don't know. I just plugged in Abanaconda when I saw that news into a lineup where I had a little bit of space. I had Vincent Davis in that lineup, but I had like 1,500 left over.
Oh, nice.
Just like in case Abanaconda did play.
I'm just gonna have I think I'm gonna have so much Travis Dye. I don't know if that's a mistake. Colorado. The one thing I like about O'Connell is I know that you are interested in Columbi and Geiger, but I like that you can pair O'Connell with Bell quite a bit.
Yeah, Bell's.
I agree with you completely that he's just way too cheap. I mean, he's the 10 reception kind of guy. He's too cheap. So, all right, well, let's talk about some bets. We did you did the 3 and out. I entered my picks for that contest where coming off my first parlay, and I nailed it in Vegas, so that was very fun.
Woo.
Do you have any other bets this week that you are putting down? I actually listened to some podcasts, did some more research since the 3 and out picks were submitted, and I have a couple that I am on now. What about you?
So let me say one of my favorites of the week first. It's Penn State under 21 team total.
Yeah.
I think that's a great number. I don't know how they get there this week. And then my other favorite one, another team total, is Virginia over 30.5. I just think UVA is going to put up like 35 points against BYU. There are a lot of values on the team totals, I feel like, this week. And one that I have not played, I'm looking for a 13 on this. I haven't been able to find it. Colorado under 13.
They're real bad.
There's a lot of 12.5s out there, so I have not seen a 13. But if anyone says it's 13, go for it.
Yeah, they are very, very bad, and that's why I keep getting pulled to Travis Dye because I think he's got 30 touch potential today. Before and that's probably before the fourth quarter. They're just going to destroy Colorado. It's going to be real bad. So I really I have become the biggest Michigan State stan this week. Frankly, I'm not sure Michigan should be favored in this game, other than perception. Michigan is, I think Michigan State's the more complete team. I mean, they have more explosion on offense. They can run the ball similarly. Their defense flies around. Michigan is just so disgusting. Maybe it's my lack of appreciation for 3 yards in a cloud of dust in defense, which is all Michigan is, but it's also at Michigan State. I really like the Spartans. I like them +4, +4.5. I'm sprinkling the money line. I don't think Michigan's very good. I mean, who has really Michigan beat?
They're undefeated.
I know they're undefeated, but I don't think
I think Michigan's just better.
Really? Why do you think that?
Total other side of this. Spartans got really lucky this year. They played really well on special teams, and they played really well. They've gotten a lot of turnover luck, and they're explosive. But I brought this in the previous hour. Michigan's top 10 in limiting explosive plays.
Yes, they are.
Passing
they
and
are
rushing.
good at that.
So where's Sparty going to get points this week? Like
I feel like they're good enough to get one through the goalkeeper, so to speak, and that might all be all it takes. I mean, I think this game could very well, maybe the under's really the play, but I mean, it's at Michigan State. I mean, that's the kicker for me too. That place is going to be absolutely insane. Although Michigan probably isn't doing much audibling or anything at the line of scrimmage, so it may not even matter because they're just going to be lining up and giving it to a running back. But I mean, here's Michigan's schedule, man. They beat Western Michigan. They beat Washington, who's turned out to be trash. Northern Illinois, Rutgers. Now they did kind of pounce on Wisconsin at Wisconsin, but again, I mean, they're good at defense, but like their offense can't challenge you at all. They won by 3 at Nebraska and beat a terrible Northwestern team. So I mean, they haven't even played like the Big Ten, the good teams in the Big Ten yet. You know, it's Michigan State now, it's Penn State in a little bit, and it's Ohio State at the end of the season. I think Michigan State's I think they're better. They're more explosive. There's a better chance that Michigan State. Let's just play it out this way. If Michigan gets up, I think there's a better chance Michigan State can catch up, you know, with maybe get one through on a big play or something like that. If the reverse happens, Michigan State gets up at home early, Michigan can't do anything. I think they're one-dimensional. They're probably, I mean, this is the ultimate get-up game, obviously, for Michigan State. I think they can shut down the run, and then what are you going to have, Cade McNamara lead you to the promised land? I mean, I think Michigan's terrible, and they've beat bad teams that they've been able to outmuscle. I'm not sure they can outmuscle Michigan State today.
I don't know.
I know you're on Michigan. That's okay, but
I like Michigan. I just think they're better. Like, I'm not worried about this explosive offense because I think Michigan can limit it. Like, I think Michigan just has the playmakers to do it on defense. And I think that's a good point though. Like if Michigan State gets out early, like what is Michigan going to do? Because they can't pass. So that's a valid concern. I'm playing the under in this game.
Yeah, I mean that seems pretty reasonable. Yeah. It should be the same as the Iowa-Wisconsin under probably. And you're getting
it's actually 50 points. There's a 51.5 out there right
now. That seems. The only thing that Michigan does, and we've talked about this all year, is they have these totals and they look like they're high totals, and somehow for our interests in fantasy, daily fantasy, whatever, they don't do it with like offensive stats at all. I mean, they score on defense, they score on short fields, turnovers. They do not put up stats on offense at all. So it's one of those things where like the under feels great and somehow they score points, and it's like, where are they scoring these points from? Because their box score looks like it should have been two field goals.
They're a scam.
I know, that's why I think they're terrible.
They're a scam. No, they're just not fantasy friendly.
Yeah. So I do like that Michigan State line myself. I know that you're a little against. And let's talk about the Gators. My Florida Gators. I'm a very pessimistic fan. But I do think Dan Mullen's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat today. Maybe not win the game, but I think it's like it feels like a 10, 11 point game to me. Dan Mullen is a known big game coach in terms of at least covering. He seems to scheme up stuff in these big games, and he played Alabama really close. We almost beat Bama, I think, in a title game a few years back in an SEC championship. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but we always seem to come to play in the big spots. I just don't know about winning the game, but it's a rivalry game, and I don't think Georgia can like jump on us. Like, I don't think they can take us out of our game plan the way that Bama did, and we still fought back in that game. So I think 14 is a really high number. I wasn't able to get 14. I know you got 14.5, I think. So congratulations there. But I threw them in a parlay at 13.5. I'm not going to put my life savings on it, but I really think they cover this game. And, honestly, if they lose 31-20, it's not going to seem like it was a close game, but it'll cover that spread.
Yeah, no, I think Florida can win this week. Really do.
Georgia's. I've been saying, what have I been saying? Georgia is 5-star Iowa. If you get, and they're like Michigan, if you get them in a situation where they actually play offense, they're going to be in trouble, and we might be able to challenge them in that way.
I don't know if they're going to pull off the upset. I do think they're going to cover. But man, like this is one of those games where you just feel like I got a gut feeling that Florida can pull out the win. I don't know what it is, but
no, I definitely think so.
I have no skin in the game in terms of like fandom. I don't really like Georgia. I'm so on Florida, but
you have other SEC East allegiances.
Yes. The Gamecocks are not playing today, so.
Oh, good. So you can just watch this with a cigar and just laugh it up.
Yeah, I can watch two bad teams. I mean, we want Georgia in Williams-Brice.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
We want Georgia. Yeah, I just, these teams that win on defense, I'm never very impressed with them. You can win on defense if your offense is like, I don't even think Georgia's offense is very efficient. They run the ball okay. Like they don't even, this year at least, they're not even like pounding the ball down people's throats really. They're winning gross games, again, defense and turnovers, and maybe that'll happen today. But to me, that's the kind of team that like in these big spotlight games, rivalry games, that's the kind of team that I think like you're playing on such a razor thin margin of error. And these games are when things get wacky. And, if you don't play with that controlled margin of error in your favor type situation, it can unravel on you. We saw that with Iowa. Like that was the prediction with Iowa. You said it, other people said it, like you're going to have a game where Petrus throws a pick or two and, the other team gets short field. So your defense is a little behind the 8 ball and, then you're down 10, 14, nothing, and you got to come back and you can't. And that's exactly what happened. So I think teams like Georgia, teams like Michigan, that's what happens. So maybe it's an end game. If you see a quick turnover, short field, something where the other team can get up, maybe then you click it in game before they even score. Because that's how these games unravel with these types of teams to me.
Yeah. So I got a couple more picks I want to add out here. And I'm gonna give you all the unders I have on my card today because I think this is a great weekend for unders.
Yeah, I have a lot of unders as well.
I have very few overs. I have one. I have two. They're both team total. Well, I have Virginia team total, and then I have I think the Oklahoma Texas Tech game's going over 66. But I have Penn State under 21, which we talked about. I have under 49.5 in Colorado, Oregon. I have under 43.5 in Minnesota Northwestern. Under 47.5 in FSU Clemson. Under 49.5 in Indiana, Maryland. And under 51.5 in Michigan State.
Yeah, I think it's a great week for unders as well. I'm very much on some unders. I can go sicko mode on you and say I like the I think it's North Texas and Rice under. Also the Texas State Louisiana under. Both of those, I like to look at old trends and whatnot, and so I was looking at both those teams in these situation, conference away or home, whatever was appropriate that I looked up. We're like 11-2 to the under, both sides of the coin. So both the away team and the home team played to the under at an incredibly high rate. And they're not even crazy low. They're in the 50s. So I felt pretty good about both of those. And no one's watching those games. I guess if you're at a sports book, you might find one in the corner TV, but you can throw some money on them and lock and load that and just look at it later when it's 24-20 and you've cashed. So Prize Picks. What do we got for some Prize Picks, Chris? Have you been playing at all lately? I mean, we really like Prize Picks over here. I wasn't able to do it last week in Vegas, so I'm a little bit off, but hit one on Monday night, 3 for. And so if you don't know, Prize Picks is an app. We have a relationship with them, but they put lines for either fantasy points or stats, and you can pick the player will go over or under that number. You have to tie it in with a parlay, so at least 2 up to 5 different plays, and you can pay out. If you hit them all, you get better odds, or you can do a flex play where you basically need to hit a portion of the bets that you put down. So it's really fun. We have a good time with it. Knowing fantasy, I think, really helps because you kind of know the specific player scenarios that you feel good about. So are you on any Prize Picks lines today?
Yeah, I like Columbia a lot for the reasons that I was talking about earlier. His is 232.5, and I think that they could. I think the game's going over, so I think Texas Tech is going to have to throw, and Columbia's hit that number like a couple times this year. It's not like he's not doing it. It's just that he isn't really scoring touchdowns, so it looks like his end of game line doesn't look great. But I think he can hit. I mean, I really like. I think that's too low for Columbia. And so that's one of my favorites. I also like looking at my Prize Picks right now. I also like Mateo Durant to go over 109.5. I think that's it's not a slam dunk, but I mean, I think there's a good chance that we see that happen this week. He's just been solid all year, even when Duke's down, and we just saw Wake Forest get absolutely destroyed on the ground. And then another one that I really like that I actually mentioned earlier was Travion Henderson over 93.5. I think that's a little too low.
Yeah, but I mean, he's so good, and I think he's like, would you say he's pretty much Bijan level in terms of like he's matchup proof, he's everything proof. I mean, he's just awesome.
He's definitely close. And we just saw Penn State give up like 300 yards rushing last week.
Right.
So
yeah. Actually, I think I'm going to do that. And Penn State, I think they've lost someone on the interior. And Illinois was obviously able to get over on them. So I think that's a good point. College injuries are probably one of the last horizons of value because I don't think people really, I mean, I'm all into college and I still miss injuries because there's so many players to keep up with. But I think I heard on a podcast, Penn State is missing some kind of interior defensive lineman. And I think he was like the heart and soul of that D line. And so it is making them much more vulnerable.
Yeah, no, they are. Colin was talking about it earlier that they're missing.
Oh, well, he's our resident, Penn State guy.
Yeah. And so he's a guy to keep an eye on. And speaking of, Colin is behind the scenes producing today. So he's got some injury info that we'll plug in here.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. Sounds like Abanikanda and Addison are both playing.
Yep.
Both probably cleared concussion protocol. Jalen Robinson is not warming up for UCF. So Ryan O'Keefe is a guy probably that you can plug in if you have him.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you know what? On Prize Picks, I think he's got a yards over under that might be worth thinking about. But I think it's kind of high. It's under 100, but I think it's like high 80s. So
maybe it might be a reception prop then to look at.
Yeah, maybe a reception prop there.
Michael Pratt is out, but he's injured like a whole bunch of different ways. You probably weren't doing anything with him, but that doesn't make me feel better about taking Cincinnati in a couple places. The lines moved a lot though, so I'm not really sure I want them right now. I wanted them when they were like 24.5. Now it's like 29. Jack Tuttle didn't travel. Michael Penix didn't travel. I don't think either. Both are injured. So it sounds like Donovan McCulley is going to start, which he's an exciting player, but I really like the under in that game even more, knowing that it's definitely going to be McCulley.
I mean, that game, does that do any? I mean, that game's on the. I mean, do we want to play McCulley?
No.
He's 40. Well, he's 5,400, and he's a big time running guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know what his rushing stats are, but I'm pretty sure he's like fairly like he'll run a lot.
I might do a GPP.
I don't hate it.
I mean,
but
he's a 5,400, and Maryland's defense is nothing to write home about. If I remember correctly, they've been on a bunch of slates, so I mean, I've looked at them.
Yeah, I don't hate that. It sounds like Kevin Marks is not playing, which is surprising. It sounded like he was going to play this week earlier in the week, so he must have had a setback or something. I obviously aren't playing him, but that's a bummer because I actually really wanted to play him this week. And I have him in a couple different places. I'm not really sure what happened there, though. I thought he's going to have a big game against Bowling Green, but that's a bummer. Any other information? That's all we're seeing right now.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. It looks like Jermaine Burton, Rosemy Jacksaint, and Arian Smith are all looking good to go for Georgia. Stetson Bennett is starting, though, so I mean,
stop the Stetson slander.
He's fine, but I don't think he's a high ceiling guy.
No, but he's not that much worse than JT Daniels.
Okay, but is he a guy you want to tie your? I mean, I'm in the context of DraftKings.
Oh, I'm just here to stop Bennett slander. I'm not playing him in DraftKings. His ceiling's too low, like you said.
Okay, all right. Now that we're on the same page, I'm not against. I don't think he's like atrocious. I just think the way they play offense is just not very fun and not really suitable for.
Oh, I have one more bet that we didn't talk about that I actually really want to bring up.
Please.
I was just looking at it. So I think Wisconsin is going to win this game. And the spread right now, I think is 3.5. So I'm not touching that. But Wisconsin to win by 1 to 6 points plus 340.
Wisconsin to win between 1 and 6 points?
Yes, plus 340.
Plus 340? Wow. It feels pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. I think Wisconsin's going to win, and I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I mean, yeah.
So you don't have to put a lot on it.
Right?
You don't have to put a lot on it.
It's a nice little one. I like that. It's a nice little little fun one for you.
If you like Iowa, you think Iowa's going to win, it's plus 330 for them. So if you want to listen, you can play both sides. If depending on how you think the outcome of the game looks. I like Wisconsin personally, so I would play the Wisconsin version. But if you like Iowa, you think Iowa's going to win, you think it's going to be close. The spread's only 35.5. Like, it's going to be a close game.
Here's a question. Do you have any Caleb Williams? Like, did you do a full fade? Do you have any Caleb Williams in a GPP or anything? No. Okay. That's fair.
Jackson Dart is healthy. He was not cleared last week, unfortunately, but they get Arizona, so I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson Dart got a little action this week in a much.
I mean, is he like jumping in as the starter, or
he's not announced as the starter? Thank you, Colin, who's working behind the scenes for us.
He's working hard for us.
But no, I don't think he's announced as starter. I don't think that they'll do that yet. But I do.
It seems like they wouldn't. I agree with you.
I just think he's probably going to play a little bit, but I mean, I'm not starting him. Sounds like Nagata's going to play. EJ Williams will play. Nagata impacts Justin Ross, in my opinion, if you were interested in him, which I wasn't.
I was, not interested in either.
But, I mean, there's just a couple different ways to play that Clemson game, but the way that I'm playing it is doing nothing. So just being honest, I don't want anything to do with that game.
I mean, I've got some Clemson running backs. We talked about Maffa and Shipley, but other than that, I don't have anything. One thing I've learned looking at these trends and stuff is I know the FSU, and unless they've turned a corner with like mentality and prep and all this, which is possible, because their culture is changing, but they have historically been atrocious on the road in conference, like 4-12 or something against the spread. So not even 4-12 money line against the spread. And, that's just pretty bad. I think they don't really seem to get up for these games. I don't know if it's like mental fortitude or whatever. But I think I'm pot committed saying Clemson's going to figure it out. And they may not, but I don't think FSU is going to offer too much resistance.
Would you be surprised if this game ended like 17-10?
No. I mean, that's what whatchamacallit, Clemson, that's Clemson games this year. That's what they've been doing.
Have they scored more? Here's the thing with the total in this game, right?
Clemson has yet to cover a game.
Yeah. So hold on, let me find the tweet so I don't butcher it, and I give credit to the person who tweeted it. But basically, if you took first half game total against Clemson this year, and you took the first half under and the game total under, you would be. I'm gonna find the actual tweet. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, you'd be in great shape.
You're like 33-2 is what it is.
Yeah.
You cannot go wrong betting against Clemson this year. I'm not today. I'm such a sucker too. I keep thinking that Clemson's gonna have a get right game at some point. And I'm like, ooh, I don't want to be on the wrong side of that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably going to be wrong again this week. So,
well, I'm not betting it. I'm not betting them either. It's definitely at the point where I don't feel good betting against.
I'm the under.
Yeah, the under. It's a big under week. I've got 3 or 4 unders floating out there. So, all right. Let's see. Prize picks I liked. I put in a couple this morning. But so I liked Bobo fantasy points. I think he's always a pretty good fantasy points bet, because if he gets in the end zone, you're going to clear it easily, and he may hit it regardless, because it's only 14. So I mean, 6 for 80, 8 for 60, gets you there. And if he gets in the end zone, he's absolutely going to crush it. So I like plays where the guy can hit it without scoring a touchdown. Bohannon over 20 points. We like Bohannon anyway. Rocco Griffin, is Vanderbilt's running back. And Vanderbilt is so bad. Here's a great thesis tester, Chris. How bad is Missouri's run defense? Because Vandy gets the Missouri run defense today. Rocco Griffin's over 57.5 rushing yards. We're going to put it to the test. How bad is Missouri's run defense?
You got to remember that Southeast Missouri put up like 300 rushing yards against them. I think Vandy's probably better than Southeast Missouri.
I mean, Rocco Griffin only needs 57 rushing yards against that Missouri run defense.
Oh, we got some more injury news. And this was a big one because I've been holding off making any picks in this game until I knew. Siobhan Cordero is expected to be available, and Dede Hunter is going to play. I think Hawaii is a live dog here. I like them on the money line. I think it's plus 180 right now. I'm going to do that.
Okay. I love when we get these.
I think you can play them both in your lineups too. To be honest, they get Utah State. I don't think Utah State's any good. I
love when we get these on the fly choices here.
Ooh, and JT Daniels is available, but I don't think they're gonna play him if Stetson Bennett's playing fine. And to be honest, I'm a Stetson Bennett truther, so
right. Well,
I'll be about that.
I know. I don't think they're gonna play him if Bennett's playing fine. I mean, I think it's like Richardson almost, where if he messes up, if he makes some mistakes, or he's just looking really bad and they need a spark, they may change things up. But otherwise, yeah, I agree. Let's see here. And then so Jalen Knighton. Okay, Miami's, kind of newly minted, kind of a feature running back, I guess. Is his over under receiving yards feels real high. It's 42.5. And 42.5 for any running back feels high. And they're playing Pittsburgh, pretty decent defense. I went under that. I mean, I felt 42 for a receiving, even for a receiving running back like he is, just feels high. He's had a couple really long plays recently, like 70-yard receptions, like screens and stuff. And so, he could do it with one play, but I think Pittsburgh's a team that can stymie that. And so I liked that under as well. And those are some of the ones that I did today.
Yeah, I'm kind of here for all of those, actually. So Michael Pratt is definitely not playing today. What do you think about the Tulane team total under?
Probably. I mean, that is, what is it? I mean, is it, if it's anything under or anything over like 20, I think
it's definitely under that. I saw 16.5 earlier.
Whew. Do we know anything about their backup quarterback?
Yeah, he's a true freshman.
Ooh, true freshman on Tulane.
Well, is he a true freshman? I just know he's a freshman. His name's Kai Horton, and I know nothing about him, if we're being honest. He does not look like a guy that looks ready to play Cincinnati. I just Google searched him.
You pull up his picture?
I'm gonna be honest with you. He does not look like a guy ready to play Cincinnati.
He doesn't look ready for prime time.
No, Kai Horton kind of looks like. Never mind. I don't want to be mean. He's going to get destroyed by Cincinnati today.
Don't be mean.
I won't be mean, but I am worried about our friend Kai Horton. He's a 3-star. Pretty sure he's a true freshman. Gets Cincinnati. So
yeah, that is
sorry, Kai.
That's a very tough assignment. Hey, what do we think about? We've liked him in the past. Tyquan Thornton. How do we like Tyquan Thornton? Bohannon's number one guy, kind of, and we like Bohannon.
I like Bohannon because of his rushing.
Sure.
So Texas is a lot better through the air than they are on the ground. So okay. I'm probably staying away from Thornton. He's just a little too pricey. I wish he was a little cheaper because I think I would have more of him.
I'm with you there. I am with you there, actually. I wish he was a little bit less. But yeah, it's going to be Abram. A lot of Abram Smith. I need to add in some Abram Smith here before we get to kick off, I think. Taysir Mack is becoming a guy I'm looking at a whole lot.
I think you could play either of those guys. Jared Wayne or Taysir Mack.
Yeah.
Wayne's 4K.
I know. Wayne's nice and cheap. You love to see it. All right. So we've got about 7 minutes. We've had a lot more injuries than normal. I guess that's to be expected as the injuries and the hits pile up on us. But any final closing thoughts here?
I'm just going through what I have today to see if there's anything I haven't mentioned that I think people need to know. Yeah, so I think Fresno is going to win today. They have actually been +1 all week, like literally all week. And then I looked again this morning and they are now favored by 1. So I think the market finally caught up. But you can still get them at I think I just saw them at -102. Or -112 or something like that. So I think they're going to win. San Diego State's a really good defense. Don't get me wrong, especially on the ground. And do I think Fresno State can drive 90 yards? Because Matt Araiza, the punter for San Diego State, is a god.
He is.
He's just awesome.
I think he's got multiple 70-yard punts this year.
Yeah, I think he had 80 last week.
One of my favorite podcasts, the Split Zone Duo. You've heard me talk about them before, but they described his punting as disrespectful to the other team, which I thought was absolutely incredible.
Okay, so a little bit more news that I missed that I think is actually pretty interesting. Temple's missing its 2 leading tacklers against UCF. So if you weren't already playing Isaiah Bauer, I think you can.
Well, yeah, you should have been probably anyway.
You should be, yeah.
Man, I have a lot of Phil Maffa. Whew. I don't know how I feel about that.
Ugh.
What? He's going to get 15 touches, I bet, against FSU at 4,100. He just fits. He fits everywhere with what I'm trying to do.
I'd rather play Jared Wayne at 4K than Maffa. I don't trust. I just don't trust.
What about both?
I mean, good, depending where you're paying up.
Also, another guy I've kind of come in on is Keyshawn Williams I think it's Keyshawn.
Yeah, Miami.
No. For Wake. He's like their third receiver, kind of. He's been coming on a little of late. He had 2 for 93 and a touch. He had a big 75-yard touchdown. But, we think this game's just going to go get out of hand. He's 3,600. So I've been doing some of him as well. Just because I like what he can offer.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
It's not a great play, but like it's just a game that's going to go off. I've found that the need I have to find some of these like $3,000 guys. I mean, it's just that kind of week.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just not a good week to be, if we're being 100% transparent. I just don't think the salaries matched up well for us. I don't know.
I mean, it didn't.
So one guy actually will throw out
for anybody, right? So we're all in the same boat, kind of.
What do you think about Austin Stogner for 3, like the mid? You need to get a touchdown and maybe like
Stogner. I mean, I don't need it, I guess, but I just haven't been doing any Austin Stogner. What do you think between Isaiah Worthy and Jaden Hazelwood? If you had to pick one.
I like Hazelwood this week.
I know you do.
He's the preferred target in Oklahoma.
Don't we still like Worthy though? Have we forgotten about Worthy? Because I feel like they were off last week and stuff. I mean, he's been incredible.
I'm not really excited to play anybody from Texas today.
Yeah,
maybe except Bijan.
I might throw one in a GPP just because he has like a 3 touchdown type of guy who could just like go crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the ceiling you're looking for in a GPP.
I'm going to make one more lineup before we kick off. And it's going to be a Donovan McCulley lineup.
Oh, yeah. I have like 3 now. That's probably ill-advised. I'm a little tilting. Last night, I went sicko mode. I did a Navy Tulsa showdown lineup just for kicks. Ended up finishing 70th out of like 700 in a GPP, which was great. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a great night. I'm feeling it. And then when I went to bed around 11:30, I was cashing everything in the 2-game slate and then had a bunch of Nevada players. And I think what killed me was a Charles Williams 1-yard touchdown when they were down 41-7. And they give it to Charles Williams and I had 0 and he was like 80% rostered. Which was a terrible play because he was expensive, but they gave it to him with a 1-yard plunge, and I think that's what killed me. So I'm kind of tilting today.
I fell asleep.
It's a good place to be.
I fell asleep before that game ended. And
yeah, so did I. I mean, I woke up and I saw no cash, and I was like, "What happened?"
Yeah. No more injury news, but Colin just said he had a trick or treater randomly, so I felt like that was it was important enough for him to inform us, so I want to inform the people that are listening as well.
Yeah, we got to do it. Yeah, I mean, this is it now. We're here, and hopefully everyone has some good luck today, and we're gonna have a big day and take home some prizes.
Let's do it.
All right, man. I will I'll catch you on the flip flop.
Let's win some money, man. Let's do it.